Judy Relic, Mrs. Fowler, and myself, Diane Carabello Bowden. Mrs. Fowler, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fire exits are located to the rear of the school committee and the front of the building. Please not forget that. Next item on the agenda is the Westerly Public Schools Commission. Mrs. Lino.
To create an inspiring, challenging, and supportive environment where students are encouraged and assisted in reaching their highest potential.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is open forum. Members of the public are invited to address the school committee on any topic. Please give your name and keep your comments brief, fact-based, non-repetitive, and professional. Personnel matters will not be addressed. Each member of the public is allotted 10 minutes if necessary. The speaker may continue after all others have been heard. In response to public comments, there will be no dialogue or discussion within the committee, as this would deviate from our published agenda. And if I could just say at this point, we probably got about 30 emails from various citizens asking us to please go forth and approve masks optional. So we are discussing that later on. Do we have a sign-up sheet? The first person is Elise Nana. Right up. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Elise Nena. I'm a special education teacher at Westerly Middle School. I'm here because the teachers need our voices to be heard. We need our voices to be heard so we can continue to support, care, nurture, and educate our community's children. Let's face it, what seems on paper as a typical workday, crammed into 8 months, is extremely deceptive. The demands placed on us increase every year, now more so than ever. Our job is one we cannot leave at the schools. It's something we take home with us nightly, and yes, even throughout the summer. The teacher's effort and time maximizing our children's education makes a huge impact on both our students in the school as well as our family life at home. My kids shared this week that they miss me because I worked so much. Their sentiment was reiterated again as I continued to work 2 to 3 hours every night. In fact, one of my daughters said, "If this is how much you have to do as a teacher, I'm picking a different profession." Isn't it ironic that our children can identify the demanding outside expectations of a teacher's true workday, while many adults seem oblivious of the situation? Out of the mouths of babes comes the truth. We love our students, and we get to know them extremely well as we are supporting them academically and emotionally, sometimes as much as their loved ones do at home. We are a shoulder to cry on, as well as a person to laugh with and share their lives with in a safe environment. In many teachers' cases, including my own, we supplement our own money to provide anything our children need to make this year and every year happen, because our students deeply matter to us. In fact, my husband has jokingly called me the Queen of Amazon because extra school supplies are always rolling in on their trucks to my home. He jokes that we should invest in their stock because of all my school-related purchases. Despite all the increased adversities and responsibilities we've had to endure, especially due to the heightened needs of our students because of this horrific pandemic, teachers continue to successfully rise to the challenges of long hours, educational evaluations, provide incentives and furnish our classrooms with flexible seating, which entices students to work and creates warm places where students' minds and social skills are shaped, and they will continue to soar every year. So, I am asking for your support now. If you truly value teachers, as we hear you say after every meeting, then please go the extra mile and advocate for us. You too have a voice with our town council. Tell them the budget needs to be altered to support the teachers of Westerly, just as the teachers of Westerly will continue to support our community. If you truly value teachers, then you would not be satisfied with offering us a contract where many of us would make less than we do right now, especially after the increase in our medical contributions. Please, don't just say you appreciate teachers. Have the courage to stand with the Westerly teachers and do what's right. I stand with Westerly teachers. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here to advocate for the children at the schools, whether it be elementary, middle, or high school. You've heard me a number of times come up and speak. We were fortunate enough, the governor made a decision to forego the mask as of March, and he left it in the hands of the town of Westerly to make the decision for the students of Westerly. As a parent, I would strongly agree that people have an option. I don't say we have to force people to wear it. I'm not saying they should, if they want to wear it, they can wear it. I think it should be a decision made at home. Education is what you guys are here for. You're not here for health. You're here for education. We provide the health care and all the needs that my son needs at home. Even with vaccine, even with the mask, yes, people got COVID, didn't they? They did. So to sit back here and say that you have to mandate every kid to have it, okay? I hear it from the parents that say, oh, my kid has got certain illnesses that is most likely to get sick. I said, wow, so that's a very unfortunate situation, but we do have to come back to a normal way of life at some point in time. We can't just run around and be afraid of everything. I think that people have learned a lot during COVID, that the masks really aren't going to stop COVID. We learned that washing the hands, keeping distance has been a good thing. Unfortunately, with my child, he developed a condition where he's constantly clearing his throat without a mask on at home, all night long. I'm at the point where I'm ready to take him to the doctor to find out if there's some type of psychological or actually a physical condition that's wrong with him from this extended mask wearing. And it's really troublesome because I hear him, and it sounds like he's grunting, and he's got nothing in his throat. But with the mask on during the day, he gets a post-nasal drip just like you guys do when you're sitting in this hot room and you get some type of post-nasal drip. I would strongly urge you guys to decide on something that is equitable to both sides of the coin. Let the people that want to send us kids to school with the mask on, and the shields, and the suits, and the hoods, whatever they need to put on their child to get into school, let them do that. For me, let my child go to school without a mask on. And I thank you for your time.
Hello, thank you. My name is Rhoda Messenger from Jamestown. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to come here and support Bob Cardio because we share similar causes, similar concerns, not only for children, but for the state of Rhode Island and ultimately our country. So I want to just speak a little bit to my concerns that I think are shared widely. I'm here to speak as a teacher of 22 plus years. What I've been seeing take place here in Westerly with regards to reasonable parent concerns over the anti-American, sexualized curriculum lesson plans and reading material is nothing short of criminal. The behavior I witnessed coming from smug, arrogant teachers and some school committee members who ignore reasonable pleas coming from parents concerned for their children's education is quite frankly disgusting. I believe that one day there will be accountability for this unethical, what I feel is a very sick and cruel K through 12 political agenda that you are enforcing and forcing onto children. What you are doing is weaponizing children. You are taking tax dollars and funneling those dollars into an unrecognizable political indoctrination camp. You may not think so. You may think you're doing good. But ultimately, I'm telling you, as a mother of 4 children, and as a teacher of many, many years, what we're seeing is not good, and it's not okay, and it's not helping children. I'm here to support Bob and to send you all a message that Bob is not alone in his efforts here. The country is well aware of what I feel is a scam that is being pulled off. You could tell the political activists that blocked Bob and harassed Bob when he tried to share his opinion. I, for one, was so offended by those teachers that purposely blocked Bob when he was presenting his argument against the many curriculum items that speak to pornography, racial division, historical lies, male shaming, and more. I think we've had enough. Enough as teachers and enough as parents. What's being propagated here are lies about history and invented narratives designed to dismantle our current society. Like every district in Rhode Island, Westerly has been awarded millions of dollars in elementary and secondary school emergency relief aid from the federal pandemic relief aid programs, specifically ESSER funding through the U.S. Department of Education. The emphasis for the ESSER funding pandemic tax money has been fully to roll out the culturally responsive education framework. Sounds impressive, but it's actually quite harmful. Here's the problem. I'm proposing that parents should know that the culturally responsive framework purports to empower students to learn using aspects of their race, social class, gender, language, sexual orientation, nationality, religion, and abilities. This curriculum, although sounds impressive and politically correct, this curriculum is divisive, it's harmful, and it's creating confusion in children, hostility in our schools and our community. Children's suicide rates and anxiety have skyrocketed since Rhode Island was taken over by what I feel is an authoritarian Angelica Ponte Green and those folks who work at RIDE. What is happening is criminal, and one day, I believe, some people are going to go to jail, and some will be held accountable. In all my 23 years of teaching, and as a mother with children who've gone through the public system, I can say this is unprecedented and dangerous. It's a dangerous game that is being played with other people's children. There's nothing culturally responsive about any of this. Nothing. I've had students come to me in a state of panic, wondering if they are a boy or a girl, concerned if their mothers are mothers or fathers. Children are too young for some of the information that is being fed to them. Historically, the literary tradition that I'm seeing present is filled with inaccuracies. There's nothing culturally responsive about anything that is going on, nothing. What I'm seeing here, what I saw the day that Bob was trying to present his vision, his views on genderqueer and other books, was nothing short of bullying. The curriculum purchased with tax dollars and pandemic funds embodies a racial creed that condemns American life and history. You've tied up the courts with senseless litigation, with division, with anger, caused pain and suffering, and right now, potentially, advancing hate crimes using children. Instilling this racially divisive ideology in our public schools cannot be allowed. Instead, we need to investigate and audit all the money being used here. We need to investigate the motives behind these so-called DEI committee recommendations, behind the clubs, the surveys designed to overthrow and undermine U.S. history, culture, and our children. Rather than treating every student as a unique individual entitled to equality before the law, the school committees are using tax dollars to purchase materials and curriculum frameworks that divide us into inherent oppressor and oppressed groups. And that should not be allowed because it is simply not the case. It is the obligation of this panel to appropriate tax dollars to the people and for the people. It is your job as elected officials to represent the people, all people, black, brown, and white. You are not the parents. You are not the parents, and what you are doing is simply not appropriate. And it needs to be revisited, and you need to look at the agenda, and support parents because these are the people that you work for. This is not an authoritarian regime, at least it shouldn't be. But that is the way it comes across. Thank you.
While we continue to fight the radicalized and racialized environment within Westerly Public Schools, we have of late seen a proliferation of pornographic, non-age appropriate books finding their way into our school libraries as the hypersexualization of our kids spins out of control. The circus that was the December 8th, 2021 meeting introduced you to the book Gender Queer, which includes verbal, pictorial references to both pornography and pedophilia. It also introduced you to a group of teachers who made utter fools of themselves. After explaining to one of them in the last meeting that I was exercising my First Amendment rights that evening, she said she was too. But someone as educated as this teacher should know that one does not exercise one's First Amendment rights by trampling on the First Amendment rights of someone else. It's a shame that our many good teachers are lumped in with this embarrassing crew. Next, it was Fun Home, where Dad had sexual relations with his male students and with the family's male babysitter. More pedophilic grooming. Now we see another book called Beyond Magenta, which recounts a 6-year-old boy performing oral sex on his male friends. A quick excerpt. From 6 up, I used to kiss other guys in my neighborhood, make out with them, and perform oral sex on them. I liked it. I used to love oral, and I touched their you-know-whats. We were really young, but that's what we did. 6 years old. I ask yet again, what educational purpose is served by having this garbage in a taxpayer-funded school library? These books are readily available throughout the Ocean State Public Library system. I've read them. That's where I got them. They're available. They're available online for any parent who wants their child to read one of these books. Although I have no idea what parent would want their kid to read these books. We are not banning books. This weak excuse has been leveled upon me by those who believe, for whatever reason, that pedophilia and pornography are valuable educational tools. We demand that pornography and pedophilia be removed from our school libraries. Madam Chair, I have some documents to share with the school committee and the superintendent. Would you like the officer to deliver them, or may I, or?
You can leave them with Attorney Norton.
I'd like to give them to each of you, please. Should I have the officer do it, or me? For Mrs. Story? What I have just given the school committee and the superintendent is called a letter of preservation and prevention of spoliation. And I will read it as follows. This letter is to notify you of potential litigation and/or criminal charges to be initiated against the above-named individuals arising out of their refusal to remove pornographical reading materials, as defined in general laws of the state of Rhode Island, 1956, as amended 11/31/10, entitled Criminal Offenses, Obscene, Objectionable Publications and Shows, and as defined in 18 U.S. Code 1466A, entitled Obscene Visual Presentations of the Sexual Abuse of Children, and as defined in 18 U.S. Code 1470, entitled Transfer of Obscene Material to Minors, from the libraries and your classrooms of the Westerly Public School System. Further, this letter is to notify you that pursuant to Rhode Island General Rules of Criminal Procedure and Rhode Island Rules of Civil Procedure, all parties to whom this letter is addressed have a duty to preserve all records and evidence which could be relevant to potential litigation and criminal charges to be initiated by one Robert J. Carradine Jr. This includes the duty to preserve the following records, whether written, electronic, or in any other form, and in addition, all records specifically listed below: emails, text messages, written memorandums, letters, and any and all documents pertinent to the purchase of any books, pamphlets, magazines, still pictures, photographs, pocketbooks, sketches, drawings, cartoons, movies, videos, and the like, depicting explicit representations of sexual conduct, sexual excitement, nudity, and the like, as defined in the aforesaid Rhode Island General Law 11/31/10 and 18 U.S. Code 1466A and 1470A, including but not limited to records of any and all orders placed for the purchase of such materials, whether written or electronic, confirmation of said orders, and the identification of individual placing said orders, shipping notices received for the orders purchased, packing notices received upon delivery, signature, if applicable, for the individual receiving said items, records of credit card charges for the purchase of said items, identification of the individual who caused the placement of said materials anywhere in the Westerly school system, thereby making said material available to minor children, any and all other pertinent information concerning the purchase, payment, and delivery thereof. Any and all data, information, records, agreements, contracts, memorandums, letters, notices, invoices, billings, approvals for purchases from the town of Westerly and or its employees, servants, and or agents of said materials, whether written, electronic, computerized, backup, active, deleted, or fragmented. This is to notify you that all records specified herein are to be preserved, and that any spoliation of said records by any individual herein notified, or by any employee, servant, and or agent acting on behalf of any individual herein notified, will be subject to the commencement of legal action and will be held responsible in their individual capacities for the spoliation of any such records. This notification is made with confidence that you have already taken steps to preserve this data, as it is your obligation to preserve all relevant evidence in criminal and civil proceedings. Thus, no procedure should have been implemented to alter, destroy, destruct, delete, or fragment any of the requested data or any other pertinent data, whether written or electronic, which may or may not be specifically described herein, but which is considered by all reasonable persons to be pertinent and relevant evidence. Further, this notification is made with the confidence that you continue to preserve such pertinent and relevant evidence throughout the course of any potential criminal and/or civil action, and that you will do everything necessary to safeguard said records and prevent the spoliation of the same. Sincerely, Robert J. Caradeo, Jr. I say to you all again, we are not going away. We will never stop fighting for our kids, our good teachers in this country. Let's hope we come to the right decision. Thank you.
Next person on the list is Lori Whitewall.
Hello, Lori Whitewall, 125 Winnicott Road. I'm here tonight, hopefully for the last time, to address you regarding the masking of our students in school. I've been sending letters and speaking to you all about this since last summer. Since then, I've joined on to a lawsuit of one of the 35 plaintiffs on the Southwell versus McKee lawsuit regarding school masking of children. And during the hearing, the Rhode Island Superior Court judge that was hearing the case found at the end of the hearing that masks are causing irreparable harm to the children. Irreparable harm meaning harm that is impossible to make right or turn around. During the hearing, the state's medical witness, Dr. McDonald, could not cite one single peer-reviewed study to show that masking children works. Dr. McDonald was in fact caught lying 3 times and had to redact 3 of his statements during his testimonies. There is undeniable data, however, proving that there's no difference in transmission rates or case rates in states that have never had mask mandates compared to states where there have been mask mandates, and the same data is there comparing countries without mask mandates. Also, you have to keep in mind that the children in general have never been at risk for serious injury, illness, or hospitalization, and that continues to be the case today. Anyone in the schools also has the opportunity to be vaccinated if they choose. This has gone on long enough. It's time to end it. I urge you to vote tonight to make masking optional in the Westerly schools, regardless of vaccination status or transmission rates. This is something that needs to happen, and if it needs to wait until the March 4th date that the governor put out, so be it. But I believe strongly that this needs to happen, and it shouldn't be reversed. The only thing I could ever see as a clinical metric to ever allow this to go back to masking would have to be hospitalization in children ages 5 to 18, not case rates, not state statistics or positive test rates. We just know too much now, and our children have been too much. It's time to change this madness and let the children decide, let their parents decide, and I urge you to make a vote on that tonight to make masking optional in schools. Thank you.
Who wishes to address this? Go ahead. Come right up. Could you just state your name, please? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Dawkins. I'm so glad that Lori just won because I'm not going to be redundant. You've all seen me here before. I've spoken about masks since I think it was last summer. And I just banged something out quickly on the computer. I wish I grabbed something a bit more eloquent, but Lori hit most of the points. So let me just sort of jump around here. Well, the good news is we've seen and heard from other school committee meetings around the state in the past couple of days that mask wearing will become optional. spoken before about the dangers of mask wearing for our kids, so I'm not gonna drag it out, but we do owe it to them to listen to some of the health risks and reactions that we put them under and at risk for the past 2 years, not 2 weeks. So when people breathe in their own CO2, it sets off a cascade of inflammatory responses. It increases our heart rate, because the body is struggling to breathe oxygen, not CO2, which is its waste product. We're not supposed to breathe that back in. It increases acidity, which sets an environment for cancer. So there is an increased risk of cancer and inflammatory diseases, including hypertension. And I'm not mentioning the psycho-emotional, educational, adverse reactions that we've all been discussing. We don't know what long-term health problems are that we set our kids up for, but they are there. Remember, irreparable harm. So I believe that we are going to stop this institutional abuse of our children by making these medical devices. Remember, it's an experimental medical device, optional at school. I find it unconscionable that we adults had our most recent mandate lifted, and yet we still have the kids who are not at risk wearing them. If ours was lifted, there should be. And if they want to wear them, wear them. If a family member wants to wear, that's what I said all along. But a mandate, no, because there's no need. They're not at risk. There's no preparation needed. And that's what I've heard a lot, that we have to prepare to take our masks off. This is what it is. Take it off. That's how you take a mask off. They shouldn't be going to school tomorrow in masks. So I've heard a lot of talk about being extra sensitive to those who will continue to wear masks, and of course, yes, because people are now afraid for no reason. So of course everybody should be gentle with each other. But what about those who've been suffering wearing them? Whatever happened to mask breaks? What happened to those? We were supposed to always have mask breaks for the kids. Some staff have become over-enthusiastically punitive in forcing and correcting mask wearing, this emergency use medical device. This wasn't their place, ever. If anything, our kids should have been extra attentive to them, asking, do you need some air? Do you need a break? Is it okay? Is it in a drag? We all can't breathe. We're all in it together type thing? No, instead it became a punishing, anxiety-ridden culture. And going forward, I don't want to hear any reports of any adults trying to make any child wrong for masks or for feeling that it somehow is their responsibility, because it's not. It isn't, and it never was their responsibility. And honestly, I feel we should all be apologizing profusely to our kids and making amends to them who just had 2 years stolen from them, and to the teachers who've been thwarted in their teaching efforts. It wasn't easy on them either, trying to get the point across through a mask. And then kids gave up raising their hands because they can't be heard. I don't know how much they've lost. Mandates are intended to be enacted to deal with a specific situation for a limited time. If we don't agree, we're not obligated under a mandate, and I don't agree. And I hope you put it to a vote tonight to do the right thing by our children. Thank you.
Did you want to speak, Mr. Logan?
Sucks, Logan, 1 Main Street. 2 short weeks ago, I found myself in this very spot, about to confront one of my biggest fears, publicizing my deepest thoughts and insecurities, forcing myself out of my comfort zone, exposing myself to public ridicule, judgment, and scrutiny, going against everything that I once thought defined me. Days later, I found myself wading in a fluctuating tide of exhaustion, despair, confusion, anger, and at times isolation. Yearning for support, acceptance, justification. I turned to my peers, I put my faith into the hands of this community, and begrudgingly posted my speech to social media. Feelings of guilt and self-promotion wearing heavy on my conscience. Within hours, the post was shared across multiple platforms. Last checked, it received nearly 50 shares, hundreds and hundreds of reactions and comments, potentially seen on over 50,000 feeds. During that meeting, I made the community aware of some disturbing material. Unfortunately for you guys, here on forward, if necessary, only stopping when this and all other inappropriate, and I quote Mr. Garceau, award winners have been removed. Upon making the school aware of these, and again, I quote self-help books, I demanded to see the classroom in question. The latest title is just one of many we are now aware of. This latest title is a memoir on suicide. By the time you read this, I'll Be Dead by Julianne Peters. WTG, short for Ways to Go, How to Do It. Methods and means. Each is rated 1 to 5, low to high in terms of effectiveness, availability, and pain. Bleeding to death, effectiveness 4 to 5. That is, of course, if you cut an artery. Otherwise, 1 to 2. Time, minutes to hours, availability 5. Razor sharp knives at best. Razor blades are difficult to hold when they're covered with blood. Pain 2 to 3. Hurts at first, not that much. It hurts worse later after you found out you failed. No, slitting wrists is a common suicide gesture and hardly ever results in anything more than a scar. Average time to die depends on your height, weight, and how large your wounds are. Expect at least 2 to 4 hours longer if you weigh more or have increased body mass. Strength and determination are required to cut deeply into groin or arteries, which are the only wounds likely to kill you. Cutting your throat is difficult due to the fact that the arteries are protected by your windpipe. If you want to cut your wrist, cut along the blue vein on the underside of your arm. A hot bath helps. It will keep the blood flowing quickly and slows down clotting. Position yourself so your wrists don't fall inward against your body, blocking up blood flow. Carbon monoxide poisoning, effectiveness 4 to 5. As long as you're not rescued, time, minutes to hours, depending on concentration. Availability 5. Carbon monoxide is emitted through car exhaust to accumulate sufficient carbon monoxide concentration. A confined area such as a closed garage is required. At 0.32 concentration, death occurs approximately in 1 hour. If you live, you will have brain damage. Sorry, continue on with this. They should maybe add this to the science curriculum, it sounds like. Moving on. I've tried 12 times. Pills, booze, knives. This time it's for real. Trying is failing. Failing to complete. Failing to plan and consider every angle of your method. I bet most of us here have tried and failed. The completers aren't here, of course. The cowards. I tried to electrocute myself and it didn't work. My friend told me if I drop a hairdryer in the bathtub, I will die. Wrong. I chose electrocution. I read it was fast and painless. I cut my electrical line and stood barefoot in a puddle. I lost consciousness and my neighbor resuscitated me. You never want to be resuscitated. You have to plan time and place. You have to be alone. You never want to end up on life support or as a vegetable. You must destroy your body beyond the point where it will support life. Again, sorry, I have to go through that. This is English literature class, 7th grade, Westerly Middle School. After the feelings of trauma and disgust receded, I referenced my readings from college, Identity versus Confusion is the 5th stage of ego in psychologist Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage occurs in adolescence between the ages of approximately 12 and 18. During this stage, adolescents explore their independence and develop a sense of self. As they transition from child to adulthood, teens may begin to feel confused or insecure about themselves and how they fit into society. It is during this stage that the adolescent will re-examine their identity and try to find out exactly who or she is, who he or she is, as they seek to establish a sense of self. Teens may experiment with different roles, activities, behaviors. During this period, they explore possibilities and begin to form their own identity based on the outcome of their explorations. What should happen at the end of this stage is a reintegrated sense of self, of what one wants to do or be. Clearly, they are in a malleable state. In previous correspondence with Dr. Garceau, he stated that the self-book self-help books were not part of the Westerly School curriculum and not purchased by the Westerly Public School. These titles were apparently found in the teacher's personal library. Knowing Mr. Garcelle as well as I do now, I headed over to the Destiny Discover homepage and searched for these titles in the Westerly Public School system. Astonishingly, I found both titles listed in our high school library. Interesting. Upon our most recent meeting with the school, our second after being previously informed in order to move forward with the removal of the book Wasted, although it wasn't part of the Washington school system, we would need to still follow policy and meet with the teacher. Initially, we declined to do so, in our view, was a conflict of interest and fear of negative repercussions on the student-teacher relationship. The principal, assistant principal of teaching and learning, and teacher were to attend. Upon arriving, we were made aware only the assistant principal of teaching and learning, who we had already met with previously, and teacher would be present. At this meeting, we're informed by the teacher that a list of titles including Wasted, and I assume by the time you read this I'll be dead, were approved and vetted by the district. They were also funded through a WEAF grant, whatever that is. They were also approved by the American Library Association, and according to the teacher, also approved by Mr. Garcelle personally. Also interesting. With adolescent anxiety up nearly 300%, depression nearly 200%, and self-harm nearly 300%, I asked my peers and the people of this community, how can we expect this administration, so immoral and morally bankrupt, to fund our children's social and emotional wealth? This committee speaks of social emotional surveys. I would say to those who think these books are appropriate, you would appear to be the ones in desperate need of social and emotional diagnosis. This committee speaks of equity. Why is my family not given its fair share? Why are my family's beliefs and values not represented here? Why is this committee and this administration not protecting our children? Instead, it would appear they are leading them directly into harm's way. Why do they continue to put my family through this grief, trauma, and hardship? It pains me to hear the committee continue to say that these materials are appropriate for our youth. No, I take it very, very personal, as this has caused great harm. And when the committee asks, where will the book banning end, as I've heard multiple times, well, guess what? I can tell you exactly where it ends. It ends when the materials containing personal harm, pornography, pedophilia, promiscuity, prostitution, pills, and powder are removed from our school system. We the people, we the parents, we demand academic transparency, and we demand this irreparable damage to our children ends immediately. Thank you.
I am here tonight to address just a few of the many issues that have been addressed on many different public forums recently. There is a good chance that you will have to cut me off, which I respect and appreciate. The first issue I would like to address is the masks. I and many of my colleagues have been accused of forcing students to wear, quote, face diapers. I can assure you that teachers have no decision-making power over the public health decisions. I can only speak for myself when I say that I fully support the optional mask policy and will be teaching without a mask as soon as I am permitted. The only thing I would ask is that parents and teachers have conversations with students, especially the youngest students, who have never been to school without a mask, and believe me, that breaks my heart. We need to assure them that it is safe to be in public without a mask, and that we all must respect each family's personal decisions. This conversation actually came up this morning, believe it or not, in my first grade classroom, because a student heard the parents talking about the fact that the masks were coming off, and in some of their little 6-year-old eyes I saw fear. And I thought, oh my gosh, because they don't know that. So we talked about how it's been a long time and we've done what we were supposed to do, and that the governor feels that it is time and it is safe for us to do that. But I think without those conversations, it might be very scary for kids. So that's all I hope for. The next issue I would like to address is the issue of parental involvement in our schools. Contrary to what some citizens believe, administrators and teachers want and need parents to be both aware of and involved in the education of their children. A quote from Jane D. Hull states, "At the end of the day, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of parents." The key in that quote to me is positive involvement. Parents should absolutely be inquiring about what their children are learning in school and the school environment that they are in each day. The key is positive. Each school in Westerly has a school improvement team. This team is meant to bring parents, teachers, administrators, and even students together to help improve the climate, culture, and academic outcomes of the school. This team is where parents can practice positive involvement. Complaining on Facebook is not going to make change. Positive involvement. Another way for parents to become positively involved is to speak directly to their children's teachers. There have been many instances where parents and even citizens who have no children in our schools have had issues with books in school and classroom libraries in Westerly. Westerly Public Schools has a policy that parents and citizens can follow to have books removed. There have not been any parents who have exercised that right. Here are a few thoughts about books in schools. Number one, representation matters, and kids need to see all kinds of situations, people, decisions, mistakes, and outcomes represented in books. Books are rehearsal for life, so why not read about something to see how characters respond and react? Then, when faced with a similar situation in life, people can think back to a book and act accordingly. Books are a very safe place to learn about the many facets of growing up and learning to be human, because they are just words on a page. We have to have a wide variety of books available to kids, because we have kids that represent a wide variety of human experience. We need books about kids of divorce, because we have kids with divorced parents. We need books about contemporary racism, because we have kids who experience contemporary racism. We need books about transgender kids, because we have kids who are transgender. We have kids that are in the LGBTQ community and allies of that community. We need books about surviving eating disorders and poverty and abuse and suicidal tendencies, because we have kids who deal with all of those very real things. Plus, kids might like to read about something totally different from their experience, to actually learn about other people's experiences. Nothing in any book is worse than what kids can hear or see on the internet. Mine included, my children included. The school bus, the school bathrooms, or the lunchroom. Yes, parents can monitor internet settings at home and on devices, but kids are very clever and will always find ways around roadblocks to get something if they want it, or if their friends are talking about it. Once something is forbidden, it immediately becomes more attractive to a child. If we start banning books, it actually might make those books more attractive to our students. Most parents are excited when their children pick up a book to read, because it takes them away from computers and phones and TV for a little while. I challenge anyone to find an example from anywhere on earth where someone in a police or rehab situation attributes their bad behavior or life mistakes to a book that a kid got off a teacher's shelf in a school. Are there people out there that blame their own bad behavior on books? That book my teacher gave me made me do it? Probably not. But you know what there are examples of? People doing awesome things and thanking their past teachers for encouraging them to read, write, act in the service of others, be more confident, find their voice, etc. I'm sure any teacher in this district can think of at least one example of a kid looking back and thanking the teacher for something like this. When someone is a professional, it means they have had extensive training, experience, and performance evaluation in their field. Just as I would never go into an auto mechanic shop and question the tools or processes the mechanic is using to fix my car, because I don't know anything about fixing cars. Perhaps people should be more careful about questioning the tools and processes professional teachers use in their classrooms. But once again, if a parent or citizen comes across a book that they do not feel is appropriate, we have a policy. We have a place for voices to be heard in ways that can promote positive involvement. Thank you.
Could you just state your name, please? Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Blanchett, and I want to thank the school committee for the opportunity to speak tonight and for saying no to banning books. I realize you have done so in spite of differing opinions on certain specific books, and I appreciate your wisdom in making it clear that banning books is not the path we want to go down. When the subject of removing books from school libraries, in particular genderqueer, first came up, I thought to myself, well, if anyone makes a request to have this or any book removed from the school library, I would hope they would be required to sign an affidavit that they had actually read the entire book in question. Then I thought further to myself, if I'm going to have an opinion about this, I really should read the book myself. So I did. FYI, I was able to check it out from the Ocean State Library System if others want to educate themselves without having to purchase. I cannot say this strongly enough. I found it to be a wonderful book. Obviously, it would not be appropriate for younger kids, but I completely endorse its inclusion in the high school library. It's certainly a challenge for those of us no longer in our teenage years to remember how turbulent and full of questions those years can be, and how everyone's paths are unique. For those unfamiliar, it is a graphic novel format. Each page has several pictures accompanied by text, and yes, 2 or 3 of the over 700 illustrations are of a graphic nature. However, this 240-page book covers many, many other issues that adolescents face in a supportive and non-threatening way. As our student representative has said, students can handle it. Just because a topic makes adults uncomfortable does not mean it's not important for kids to be informed and to know they are not alone. I recently came upon the following quote. I'm sorry, I don't know the author, which sums it up. There is a reason some don't want students to read tough literature. Stepping into someone else's shoes and seeing the world through oppressed or marginalized eyes changes for life. It creates empathy and better understanding and often solidarity. In closing, I would just say that our form of government is based on the idea that everyone has a right to express their opinions. The best example we can set for our children is to do so in a civilized, respectful way. Personal attacks have no place in this discussion. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, I am Jade Melinda. I teach at Wesley High School. I teach cosmetology. Thank you in advance for any consideration you give for the next statements. First, in true CTE fashion, I'd like to mention that this month is CTE month. If you're not sure what that is, career technical education has been one of the most passionate things I could ever teach in my life. So if you're not sure, stop at the cosmetology lane, get a little color, okay? Come by, okay? For high schools across the state, CTE month is the time that we celebrate all career vocational programs offered to students in order to prepare them for college and career readiness. And I say and, because I mean both. Most CTE programs give our students the ability to have a step ahead in their career goals, right after graduation. In my case, my students can go right to work, making money, paying for their college tuition, being prepared for the real world, and all the terrible things and the good things that probably exist out there, okay? In other cases, to have a step ahead in their career goals. Okay, CTE programs give students credit towards their desired college programs and career internships. If you're not been to the WHS building, tour our 9 programs and the spaces. I highly recommend it. Okay, that's where you'll find some of the amazing projects and talented students and all of the work that's created by our Wesley High School students. I almost challenge you. Come see me during the day. Come see any one of our 9 programs. Our kids are amazing, and I don't want to wait till we see them on NBC to see how amazing they are. The Wesley students are my primary concern tonight. I am known by my students as Miss N, because Maryland is just so complicated, and it's very unique, diverse name. And I am a Wesley teacher. When the pandemic hit schools everywhere, our school did their best, as many did, to take care of the students. Wesley was no different. We stepped up to the challenge and took care of business. We should say we took care of the kids, because that's what we did. They are the main stakeholders when we consider what the future of Westerly and Rhode Island will become. In everything, in all of the turmoil over the last 2.5 to 3 years, Westerly teachers have been the constant in your children's lives. We have delivered. We have delivered everything from instruction and materials to guidance and support, all while navigating the new identity of today's post-pandemic teacher. Today's teacher must be all the amazing things great teachers already are. High quality, compassionate, patient, resourceful, and dedicated. All while trying to keep your kids and me, trying to keep your students and ourselves healthy and safe. We must be masked and sanitized and virtual at the drop of a dime. As the last couple of weeks, for some reason, the snow showed up, and that's true. In Wesley schools, my colleagues and I have made the investment into the students daily and continue with each lesson and every experience. We make the investment because the returns are so rewarding. In my classroom, the cosmetology lab, the rewards are students and internships, crushing new service goals, and building new skills, just to name a few. It's not hard at all to recognize the hard work of the students and their resilience. It's incredible. It's because of that it's important for the community to recognize the many contributions of Westerly teachers to ensure the education, safety, and overall well-being of students, to recognize the value in the high-quality teaching that happens every day, in every building, and in every classroom. We, the teachers, are putting students first. We want for your children what we want for our own. And unlike some, and I've said it before, I wish my children were Wesley students, because I don't live here. I'm an hour wishing, because where I'm from, kids don't have what kids have in Westerly. They're hungry and cold, and their parents have more problems that don't involve what color their skin are, or who they choose to marry, or any of the books they choose to read. It's not even a thought. It's not just for ourselves, but because your children for 180 days from pre-K through 12 and beyond are our children. Some of my children ask me to take them home. My husband said, So we ask you to put our students first. Investing in a fair teacher's contract benefits the district, the town, and the primary stakeholders, the students, When you're considering the fiscal responsibilities of the town, schools and students cannot just be a budget item. They cannot be another cost. The schools need to be considered what they are, an investment. And Westerly teachers are a major part of what comes and makes WPS so amazing. When the school committee looks to work a fair contract with the town council, remember the students, because you can't put the students first. You can't put them first if you put teachers last. And at the end of the day, and I'll say it again, every single time someone steps up here and puts politics first, the kids lose. Every time. Thank you.
Is there anyone online,
Anyone wishing to speak on the phone, using the Zoom app, using the dial-in phone number, press star 9. Please state your name for the record before. First floor out is first statements of the order.
Hello, Kim?
My name is Kim Capola, and I just want to offer a few comments. I just want to ask you to adopt the mask optional policy. I think at this point that a parent should have the authority to do what's best for their child or their children. And I think there's too much negative effect. The school will never see the effects that will manifest physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, and psychologically for years to come. And I think it should just be if kids want to wear it, and their parents want them to, they can. But I think that at this time, that I would ask you to adopt the mask optional policy. And I just want to make a comment in regards to the books, such as Gender Queer. Just an overall thing, I know a lot's been said about this. My question is, why are people so focused on these books if people need to have questions and stuff? Why is every kid exposed to this for somebody that might have questions on something that's in gender queer? Why are we not directing people to use the services that we have at our school and go to a human being? Like, there's so much focus. Books, this person might need this book, and this book, and this book. What about the human? Like, it's human interaction. That's what's gonna help a person, or if they have questions. We shouldn't get these people isolated to, oh, if you feel this, let's go read a book, or find a book, or find a book. Like, we need to have the human interaction. And we have a lot of good people, especially at the high school, that counselors and everything that can help kids with this. So I think that's where we need to spend time focusing to direct them there rather than books. I think there's just focused too much has been set on books and not the human interaction to help our kids, especially with COVID and everything going around with masks and everything. I think our kids need the human interaction, and that's what's lacking. And I just wish that people would just more focus on that to kind of bring people together on that rather than just saying like, this book needs to stay here because people might need it. Well, they might, but you know what? If it's offensive to someone else, then they have a right to do that. And we as parents should have a say in what's in the library. There's plenty of other places people can get it online and stuff, but I think that the thing here needs to be to involve the people into where they can get help or talk to somebody if they have questions, rather than to get their answers from reading a book. I think the human interaction is just not spoken a lot, and it really needs to get more attention so we can help our kids if they have questions or need help. Just like I said, there's amazing people at Westerly High School that are counselors that can help people out, and I just think we need to kind of let them do their job and kind of help our kids do the best we can for them, like in all ways, mentally, socially, physically. So that's all I have to say, but thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No one else?
There's nobody else available this time.
Thank you, Morris. Would anyone from the school committee like to respond to anyone?
Madam Chair, may I interrupt, please? I'm going to advise you all not to respond to the correspondence that was handed to you this evening, or the correspondence that Mr. Carrillo read from the podium. It's a notice of threatened litigation, potential criminal charges, and I'm advising you not to respond to that. You can certainly respond to any other comments that you'd like.
Anyone else respond?
Mr. Salino and Mrs. Fowler.
And just one quick thing, Mrs. Michael, we are going to be discussing the maths coming up, so hopefully that will go by me, but I just want to say that I totally agree with you that the metric that really should be looking at, if and when we can implement this, is that it should be between 5 to 18-year-olds and looking at hospitalizations and traffic deaths, and that really should be what we're looking at. I agree with that. Thank you.
Mrs. Cook?
Thanks for everyone who came up and spoke. There's one thing I just want to clarify, the role of the school committee. We had one of the teachers, I think it was Ms. Nena, who came up and spoke, and the teachers have a union to represent them. It's a very strong and powerful union. The school committee is really the union for the parents and the teachers, and the children. Those are the folks who don't have a voice. So we're here to represent them. So if we're going to do any advocating for anyone, we advocate for students and families and what's best for them. So if there's any confusion about the role, that's what we're here to do. We're here to represent students and families who voted us in and elected us to represent them, who don't have a voice and they don't have a powerful teachers union behind them. So I just want to clarify that. If there's any indication that we're not courageous, I think there's also a misnomer that we're not negotiating a contract with the town council. The town council has nothing to do with the teacher's contract. They set the budget, that's all they do, and then we work within that budget. And we don't have a teacher's contract, we have no idea what it's going to cost at this point. My understanding is we're heading to arbitration because we have not come up with a workable solution. So I just want to clarify the rule. Thanks.
Anything else? Anyone? Mrs. Fowler?
I just want to state that sadly, I don't find it ironic that another book from the LGBTQ community is now under fire. Because I haven't read it, but I did look it up, and it is literally a book about transgender teens and their journey. As I've been heard them referred to as quote unquote confused kids, which doesn't sit well with me. After not the meeting 2 weeks ago, but the one before that, where I had the courage to speak out for those kids in that community, I had a parent send me a message and told me that they had to turn the meeting off. Their child asked them to turn the meeting off because they could not handle what was coming from the podium and the anger and hate in the direction that it was pointed. And when I spoke, they listened, and the parent emailed me and thanked me because the book Genderqueer helped that child. Now, I have spoken to many people in the education world. It's not a book for everybody. It's not. I've read it. I won't let my daughter read it yet. I don't think she's old enough. She's not in high school yet. And when she's ready, I will let her read it. Because it makes her a better person. Because she's going to understand some of her peers better. So if that book helps one kid, which I've had a parent write me and tell me that it did, then I'm going to fight for that book to stay